I've gotten a lot of requests for more Fallout 4 videos. I've gotten a lot of requests for some modded videos. And I've even gotten requests for another Halo video. So, how about we roll all of them into one, as today's the day we figure out, can you beat Fallout 4 as Master Chief? Not to spoil the surprises in store for this video, just know that I've installed a few mods that add a bunch of Halo related armor and weapons into Fallout 4. Also, as a side note, I've actually already recorded another Halo 3 run, I just need to work on a script, so here's hoping that that video will be out sooner rather than later. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's begin. Now, usually I would just start at the vault exit, but considering the basis of this video, I feel it makes sense for us to be frozen in cryosleep. Also, no, we do not get to see what Master Chief looks like, I'm sorry, but I don't make the rules. I'm not going to go over my stats here as I change them later at the vault entrance, so for now, I go and play with Sean, talk to the wife, and then get the worst news ever from Lord Hood about the end of the world and sprint my way to the vault. I then begin my Halo out journey as I hop into the cryopod, watch my wife get murdered, and begin my escape. Making my way out of the vault is the same as usual, just trapping rad roaches behind doors, that is, until I notice a dead Oni field technician who happens to be carrying one of the pistols from ODST. It seems to fire the same rounds as some of the high-end sniper rifles, which, while is great for damage, it is not good in the terms of availability, especially for the early game. Thankfully, like most weapons in the base game of Fallout 4, I know I can change it to fire different ammo, albeit for less damage. Now it's time for my stats, which aren't all that special if I'm being honest. They also aren't exactly, shall we say, lore friendly for Master Chief either, except for the endurance and luck stats. As I leave the vault and head straight back to Sanctuary, I make a beeline right for the weapons workbench, and I'm able to modify the Magnum to fire 10mm rounds, which, while substantially weaker than before, will be much easier to keep stocked up. I would like to bring up the fact now that the guns from this mod have a modification setting that allows you to just outright adjust their damage. I'm assuming this is so higher level players who download the mod can still get some use out of the weapons, but for this playthrough I'm just leaving them all in their default 0% damage increase setting as to not break things too quickly. But now, let's address the elephant in the room. What about armor? Well, according to the mod you can craft the armor at a chemistry station, so I go to do just that and I am greeted with this shopping list. So, for anyone who doesn't wish to do the math, in order for me to get any form of protection, I will need a total of 35 adhesive, 30 circuitry, 36 fiber optics, 15 nuclear material, 20 leather, 10 rubber, 34 screws, and 35 steel. Right, so, to get straight to the point, it took me just over 2 hours to get all of these materials. Now, rather than go over all of my searching in detail, I'll go over the main points and areas of interest on my scavenging journey. I was able to get more than enough steel and rubber just by scrapping everything in Sanctuary and the Red Rocket truck stop, as well as a fairly decent number of screws and adhesive. Underneath the truck stop, I took out some of the mole rats with the Magnum to get their hides for leather. Realizing that I would need a few more rats to skin, I began to head towards the Starlight Drive-In nearby. On the way, however, I encountered an elite ranger and an officer. The ranger was easy enough as he only had an energy sword and wasn't able to get close enough to hit me. As for the officer, I was able to take him down before he got shot off with his fuel rod, and as such added it to my arsenal along with a decent chunk of ammo. After taking the skin from the drive-in mole rats, I came to the realization that just scavenging for supplies would take far too long, and that trading for them would ultimately be a better idea, and as such, made my way to Diamond City. This is also where I died for the first time as me and the Diamond City guards got overwhelmed by a pack of mutant brutes outside the city. Perhaps because I was naked, or because the difficulty was set to hard, they continued to tear through me over and over again. That is until eventually I decided to play things very slowly and just whittle them down over time with the pistol. From the brutes, I was able to get a few plasma repeaters and grenades, along with their armor, which I could sell for a decent amount of money. Speaking of, I ended up selling just about everything that I owned that wasn't ammo for my pistol, or parts needed for my suit, to get everything I needed except for most of the fiber optics and a few pieces of circuitry. I tried waiting for a few days, but it quickly became apparent that I wouldn't be able to buy these supplies from any of the merchants in Diamond City, so I decided on another new plan. I was going to go to Jamaica Town to the southeast, as there's a room inside the town hall's basement that is filled to the brim with laser wires that can be dismantled for fiber optics, as well as a few wall-mounted turrets that will drop circuitry when destroyed. The only real issue is dealing with the horde of ghouls infesting the town, as they are quick and hit pretty hard given my lack of protection. This would probably be the best time to mention that I also downloaded a mod that replaces the normal feral ghoul noises with the sound effects of the Flood from Halo 3. After they are dealt with, I make my way into the basement to grab the last of the fiber optics that I'll need as well as the circuitry. I then return to Sanctuary and craft my Mark V armor and can now actually stand somewhat of a chance against the horrors of Boston. We aren't quite finished yet when it comes to crafting however, as this mod adds another 2 workbenches, one that allows me to craft ammo, and another that allows me to build some of the UNSC weapons from Halo. I use what materials I have left to craft myself an assault rifle, and then take it to a weapons workbench to remove its red dot sight, as well as modify it to fire 5.56 rounds. Also yes, it does bug me to no end as a Halo fan not seeing the appropriate number of bullets on the assault rifle ammo counter, but this is only an issue with the console version of this mod. I believe if you download this on PC with the Fallout 4 script extender, then it should display the same as it does in Halo. Speaking of the gun, I don't have a lot of ammo for it yet, and as it stands, I'll need the Gun Nut rank 2 perk if I want to craft ammo for it, so my focus now is hitting level 13 to do just that. And what better way to get some experience than by helping the Minutemen fight off the Covenant in Concord, putting the assault rifle to the test, and it cuts through the elites outside the museum in seconds. With that in mind, I decide to save the limited ammo I have for it now until I get more, just in case I find myself in a sticky situation. I get some good mileage out of the plasma repeater inside the Museum of Freedom. Sure, they may not have shields like an actual Halo, but that doesn't stop me from burning a hole clean through their chests. When I clear out the elites in the museum, Sturgis tells me that I need a weapon, which I politely decline, as my pistol is more than enough to deal with the reinforcements that have now just appeared in the streets. When the Deathclaw appeared, I thought about using one of the plasma turrets that one of the nearby elites dropped, but it turns out you can't really see with it in first person. Now that I think about it, this may have been intentional, seeing how you use the detached turrets in third person in Halo. Regardless, I switch to my fuel rod cannon to do the majority of the damage, and then panic switch to my assault rifle to finish it off when I run out of ammo. With the Deathclaw dead, I quickly mop up the rest of the elites and then choose to side with Preston and his Minutemen and join them back in Sanctuary. Seeing how Preston is obviously going to send me to 10 Pines Bluff first, I thought I'd get ahead of the curve for once with this questline and start the Abernathy Farm Settlement quest now rather than later. A simple enough mission, head to the nearby elite base and retrieve the stolen locket from Mr. Abernathy and his wife, because I guess elites are like magpies and steal shiny objects. Short controlled bursts with the assault rifle are a pretty effective way to cut down any elites in my path rather efficiently. That said, hammering the trigger of the pistol like an absolute madman also gets me results. With the locket now in my oddly tiny hands, I return to the Abernathys and recruit them to the cause. Now, with that out of the way, I head for 10 Pines Bluff, and after taking out a few wild dogs, decide that I'm going to up the difficulty to very hard. Much like the Skyrim is the Lone Wanderer video, if I'm going to be outputting crazy high damage, I may as well let the enemies do the same to me. When I head to stop the elites at the Corvega assembly plant, I once again just use my pistol, as assault rifle ammo is still rather scarce until I hit level 13. Not that that's a bad thing, mind you, as I'm still able to decimate the Covenant forces with the Magnum. I guess it's a combat evolved pistol. A good thing about fighting elites as opposed to normal raiders is that they are so much easier to see at long distances due to all of their bright colours. After I kill who I believe was supposed to be Jared, I return to the settlers and begin to funnel power into Preston Garvey. Speaking of Preston, I return to him with news of my success, and he grants me the rank of General, which if you ask me, it's about time Chief got a promotion of this caliber. Preston's promotions don't come without a price however, as wouldn't you know it, another settlement needs our help. This time, it's none other than Oberland Station. They send me off to kill flood ghouls in the College Square station, and other than blowing out my eardrums with their overly loud screams, they don't pose much of a threat, especially in this small of a group. What's good about this is now when I return to Preston, I'm able to progress to retaking the castle, but even better, I level up and can now take the Gun Nut rank 2. As you all know, I was initially hard focused on this perk just so I could craft ammo for the assault rifle, which, by the way, I do, and managed to make a total of 257 rounds, which is amazing. But what ended up being even better is that I was now allowed to craft a shotgun and a sniper rifle. Because I know someone will ask, the reason the sniper doesn't have the traditional Halo scope is because I need to have a rank in the sniper perk to have the rights to build it. So until that happens, it's going to look like this. At the castle I get to test out these new toys, and to say they are good would be quite the understatement. The shotgun is able to rip through the majority of the Mirelurks in 2 shots, 3 at most. As for the sniper, well, it ended up being the saving grace of this battle whenever the Queen showed up. I thought that I'd be able to stand up to her rather easily given the sheer firepower at my disposal, but she quickly bitch slapped the chief into an early grave, so that was obviously not the case. So on the next attempt I played it smart and actually kept my distance from the Queen, almost as if I was using some kind of ranged weapon, and proceeded to get headshot after headshot on her. To be fair, she helped out considerably by standing on top of the castle's walls at one point and just not moving until I put the final shot in her dome and she came tumbling down, thankfully not crushing Preston in the process. With the castle now ours, I got my next assignment to clear out Sunshine Tidings from its ghoul infestation. But more importantly than that, on the way I got to recreate the Nightfall mission from Reach as I sat on a nearby cliff and systematically picked off elites from a distance with my sniper rifle. Not long after getting Sunshine Tidings under my settlement belt, Preston informs me it is already being attacked. Even though I realistically don't have to go and help them out, as it doesn't further the Minutemen questline, I decide to do it anyway, and it turns out this may have been one of the smartest decisions of this run. See, the settlers are being attacked by brutes. Up until now they have just carried spikers and plasma repeaters, but then 2 of them end up approaching with gravity hammers. Naturally, I riddle them with bullets until they stop moving and take the weapons for myself. I then use it on one of their nearby allies, and it becomes clear to me that this will most definitely be a weapon worth upgrading, as even without any perks and melee weapons, it is doing a sizable amount of damage to these very hard brutes. I then head back to Sanctuary, pump more damage out of the hammer, and set off for the ironworks to deal with the forge, and in the process recruit Finch Farm. Also, here's me holding the hammer in third person. It's a chunky chunk boy. On the way to the forge, I ended up stumbling into another settlement, this one overrunning with brutes. This seemed like the best possible place to try the new damage upgrades to the hammer, and needless to say, they were definitely worth it. Due to the path I took to get here, I actually ended up stumbling into the ironworks before making contact with the residents of Finch Farm. Not that it matters though, as I can still just clear out this place now and then report my success after the fact. Oddly enough, the Forged have not been replaced by a type of alien species, but instead remain human and carry some of the Covenant weapons, such as the needle rifle. Battering my way through the small fries to conserve ammo is rather simple, so skipping ahead to the boss of the gang, and I try to convince Jake here to stand down, but he won't listen, and as such, he turns hostile. Once again, these Forged, while numerous, can't stand up to the might of MC Gravity Hammer and get battered to hell and back. Even Slag ends up getting stun locked into oblivion, as with nearly every hit, I cause a piece of his armor to explode, which subsequently just makes each hit after that even more deadly. Once the deed is done, I grab the sword and meet Old Man Finch for the first time, sadly inform him of the death of his least favourite son, and then report back to Preston, who tells me to head back to the castle to talk with Ronnie Shaw. We all know how this quest goes, so I won't waste your time. The only part worth bringing up is that there were more Oni operatives down underneath the castle in the area where Sarge usually is. Difference is, this time, these ones were alive. Granted, they don't survive long, especially considering they get a shotgun blast right in the torso, but I still thought it was an interesting addition to the mod nonetheless. Plus, I get a DMR from one of the corpses. Sarge also managed to clobber me to death one time, but that's neither here nor there, as I roasted his metal skin with my plasma repeater on the following attempt. Finally, with all that fluff done for the Minutemen, I think it's about time I go start the main quest. So with that, it's off to go rescue Inspector Gadget from the gangster flood. Before that, however, I engage in a rescue mission as I happen upon the combat zone, and I realise I can't just leave Kate to become a prisoner of the Covenant. I'm able to get the jump on them despite my bright green suit and pick off a fair few of them with my sniper before they realise I'm even here. Once they do notice that something's up, I switch to the shotgun and come to the realisation that it has the same range as the Halo Combat Evolved shotgun, or in other words, pretty damn far. After the last elite gets a face full of Magnum, I inform Kate and Tommy they have been rescued and then leave to pursue my other objectives. I was hoping that Swan would just be some sort of massive brute chieftain, but sadly that wasn't the case, so I just put him down with a couple of bursts from the assault rifle followed up by the shotgun. Making my way through the Triggerman and the Magnum and shotgun continue to get a lot of use, mainly because the Triggermen also drop ammo for them, so I'm able to recoup my lost ammo as I murder my way through. After getting to Nick, I begin using the plasma repeater, as by this point I've loaded enough elites to have over 500 cells for it. Despite the fact it does about 20 damage less than the assault rifle, it still burns through targets in no time at all. But I am willing to chalk some of that up to the fact that the Triggermen are meant to be dealt with early game, and by this point I'm nearing level 20. When facing Skinny Malone, I get a surprisingly clean cut with a gravity hammer as I detach his head from his shoulders and then proceed to beat down the rest of his cronies. Outside, I tell Nick I'll meet him in Diamond City, but in actuality I head back to Sanctuary, modify the DMR, and get it ready for use. Returning to Diamond City, Nick and I make for Cornflakes' house to grab some stims and cigars so that Dogmeat can pretend to lead me right to him, while I then head back to Sunshine Tidings to head south, to, as per usual, skip the first portion of the quest. I snipe and kill all of the elites of the Federal Ration stockpile, as I'm known to do, when I legit get jump scared when one of the elites decides to rush me in the suit of power armor with an energy sword. Granted, he goes down in a few seconds, but I can assure you that that was the last thing that I expected to see here. Once I make it inside Fort Hagen, I test out the DMR and some of the synths, and it is pretty effective, especially from stealth. When I'm face to face with the wife killer, I bust out Old Reliable to do the job. Kellogg seems to think his stealth boys will come in useful, but unfortunately for him, the Master Chief is pretty familiar with engaging invisible enemies in combat, and as such, he is spray and pray to death. As the Pridwin of Autumn arrives, I briefly consider if I should join the Brotherhood. That said, I also quickly dismissed that idea when I realised it would mean killing the railroad, and let's just say that doesn't seem like something the Master Chief would do. I head back to Diamond City once again to further the plot, but more importantly, buy as much ammo for all of my weapons as physically possible, and then make my way to Goodneighbor to also do both of those things I just mentioned. Brain dancing with Kellogg is as uninteresting as ever, and as such, when I'm out, it's off to everyone's second favourite green filtered hellhole, the Glowing Sea. More often than not, I'm able to run through the glowing sea and avoid trouble along the way. This time though, it seemed like every irradiated creature or mutant in a 5-mile radius decided to hone in on my position. There were blood bugs, which were easy enough, but then 2 rad scorpions who just wouldn't leave me alone, as they kept digging into the ground when they suspected even the slightest amount of danger. Not to mention that while I was fighting them, I ended up walking into a massive flood horde. Thankfully, I got fairly lucky with a grenade that took out all but one of them, so that was at least something. After dealing with the scorpions, I then got reminded that stingwings are a thing that exists. Seriously, I always just think these things are blood bugs unless I'm looking at the name under the health bar. And then finally when they're killed, I have to deal with a deathclaw outside Virgil's cave. Lucky for me, multiple rounds from a DMR are able to put it down for a permanap. With all that out of the way, I meet with Virgil to begin hunting down the courser, but even better, I level up, and finally, after wasting a few levels increasing my perception, I'm able to take the sniper perk and as such, go back to Sanctuary and get the right scope for the sniper rifle to make it look more authentic. While all this does is change the look of the gun, it still makes me want to use it even more, so to that end, the gunners get to be on the receiving end of my newfound happiness. The courser also doesn't stand much of a chance against me, as I was smart enough and saved up a critical shot with the sniper to take him to half health, and then while he was too focused on either trying to heal or activate his stealth boy, I fired a few more rounds into his skull to finish the job. I then for once actually saved the nearby runaway before heading out to find the railroad. I face off against more elites and brutes along the way and continue to demonstrate the sheer power of the sniper as they all drop before they can get close to me. Using the shotgun on the few flooding the church isn't an issue, except when this one decided to tackle me while I was focused on the world's easiest puzzle. I then head inside and they of course immediately trust me, and they take the chip from me and decode it, giving me all the info I need to head back to Sturgis and build myself a teleporter and use it to get into the Institute. I then chat with Father, tell him that I cannot join him because his robots are evil, and then I leave the Institute faster than I entered, and thankfully, just as I'd hoped, I was able to establish enough settlements already to instantly begin to defend the castle mission, and it was now onto the final stretch of the main quest. This is, however, without a shadow of a doubt, the most difficult part of the run. Ignoring the fact the game is on very hard, the number of synths and coursers the game bombards you with here is insane. Not helping matters is that they seem to get more bullet spongy as the fight goes on. I get gunned down many times here to the point where I begin quick saving after dispatching every wave just to get a move on and to make sure I wouldn't have to start over again upon another death. The assault rifle ended up being the saving grace of this fight, as I had enough ammo that I was able to eventually chip away at the health of some of the beefier coursers. Other than my pistol and repeater, I ended up spending the majority of my ammo during this encounter, which made me a little concerned about assaulting the actual Institute itself after this. Turns out, however, that I was worried for nothing. The only part that gave me any trouble was, funny enough, the first 2 wall-mounted turrets as you enter. For some unknown reason, they would rip me to pieces in less than 5 seconds, yet all the other turrets and synths after them were nowhere near as strong. Once I teleport in the rest of the Minutemen, me and Preston easily punch our way through. I even stopped to shoot the monkey people Easter egg, only difference is here they actually fight back and are actively trying to kill me. I managed to use the gravity hammer again here after forgetting about it for some time, and wouldn't you know it, it's still doing a pretty good amount of damage to the synths even at the end of the story. In the final room, I use another critical sniper shot to wipe out one of the legendary synths, and then get right up in the face of the second one and take him down in one shot with the shotgun. Preston and the Minutemen then clean up the rest of the synths as I strap the pulse charge to the reactor, we get teleported one last time, I press the big red button, destroying the Institute, finishing the game, and proving yes, you can indeed beat Fallout 4 as Master Chief. I hope you liked this character based run, as I know these are a lot of people's favourites on the channel. It certainly was more difficult in parts than I would have thought given the number of weapons I had to work with. Regardless, that's going to be the end of this challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like, and if you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe to try to have one of these videos out every week. My name's Nerbit, stay safe everyone, I'll see y'all in the next video.